Hi, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh,
Thanks
cheers.
for taking the time to come on. We obviously talked about this not too long ago, a few weeks ago, and you've recently started doing your own pod, and we thought we'd have a crack at doing this together.
Sure. Yeah, mate. It's only the beginning. Happy kind of to share the journey, and it's hopefully, in a few years we're gonna have a look at this, and it's gonna funny.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. It's the early ones, right? And you look back and you got to do the reps. You got to have the conversations.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the conversations. If that's the only thing I'm gonna get from it, that's good enough for me.
Exactly. Enjoy having these one-on-one conversations anyway. We might as well be recording them and giving some people access to some of your knowledge of being a leader.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, it's kind of my knowledge, my mistakes. There's much for me to learn in the future, I'm sure. But it's part of the process, I guess.
That's it. Plenty more to give. Well, let's sort of start with how you became an engineer, I guess, and the path that you went down, and sort of how you started out early on in your career.
Sure. Yeah. So my path is a bit, I guess, maybe not unusual is the right word, but it's not your usual go to uni and study computer science and then be engineer and team lead and move more traditional way. I started just kind of studying graphic design, and it was back in Israel many years ago. I think your viewers will have to guess how much, my age. Me and my two mates decided, because we had so much knowledge, we decided we're going to open a business. One of them was he was like more like a designer, being him like web designers, and another one he's like a more designer, more like a design character, an animator, and we opened without building things for customers, and and very quickly I found myself coding because I just wanted to do everything, and just also kind of before that, someone was going to introduce me to coding. A designer said, "Hey, Vico, have a try." He introduced me to a very senior engineer, and just basic HTML, CSS stuff. Just kind of take this Photoshop file, and start cut it to pieces and feed it to Internet Explorer 6 and Firefox and very old browsers. Yeah, and that was actually, the job, just doing that, just getting Photoshop files. And because I studied graphic design and I had a good understanding of, why the designers kind of fixated on makes everything perfect, right? So I find myself very easy to communicate with them. And also I give an opportunity, hey, I can design something that I can build it. So it's kind of pretty much my whole day-to-day every day was just designing, coding, building products, mainly websites. And then I went my last day of my first year in uni, graphic design course. I signed up for an application development course for like 10 months or something. And I went there with my kind of big with typography last home assignment, So it was kind of weird. They were looking at me, it's kind of, what the hell is going on with you? It's had to do with engineering. And so it was a group of people, different ages, want to start coding, and some like young like me, and I couldn't stop. I just couldn't stop. Like I just enjoyed so much from coding, from building, from creating. I couldn't stop. I was coding, he gave us home assignment to build something very small. I will do like 5 times more because I enjoyed it so much. And then I worked in a studio, like a UX studio, for 4 years. Pumika Design in Israel. That place was probably 3 times more what I could study at any university, to be honest. The studio owner was probably one of the smallest people I met, and also just he talked about UX and UI before everybody knew what that is, and every project that he brought to the studio was different and new and challenging. So it gave me an opportunity to grow so quickly. And I stayed there for a while, but then I wanted to go and work with more engineers. And the studio was like small projects, but so I joined a gaming company, which I think we talk about. Like I always recommend to every engineer, if you can go and work in a gaming company, even if it's a gambling, I know some people have a problem with that. If you purely look at the engineering of that, you get to work on scale problems, because it's usually lots of gamers, real-time problems, traffic, real-time problems. You get to work with heavy UI, right? Kind of animators, game designers, backend. You get to everything goes today, to different mobile devices. So it's a different way of thinking. So so suddenly from a very small studio, barely working with other engineers, very much focusing on, my contribution. I found myself in a group of people that, everyone needs to do their own thing, and then eventually it needs to kind of go to, something, to a game, and then it goes to billions of users. I stayed there for also like 4.5 years until the company was sold. It was also kind of working in a company that, startup, it's not startup, there was no funding. Two brilliant engineers just, with an amazing timing, build that product, become profitable pretty much very, very quickly. Had very smart people, and just, they sold the company for 100 mil between two of them. Yeah. They share with us nice bonus, which was lovely. Yeah. And again, it's kind of learned so much. This is like where the first opportunity I got to lead, like another engineer. And then, but besides like just me leading another engineer, I also was like a gateway to production. So everything went to me, kind of went to production. Java servers had their own deployment process as well, but a lot of the mobile, it's kind of manage the assets. So I got to kind of work with everyone. We built our own support system, and then work closer to support. I worked so close to support that I married the support manager.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we worked together. Yeah, exactly. And after 2 years of working together, I asked her to go for a beer. She said no. After 6 months, I asked again. She said yes. So, yeah. And after 4 months, we moved in.
There you go.
Yeah.
So now she's editing your podcast.
Now she's editing my podcast. Well, she's doing much more than that. Besides being also an amazing mom to our two beautiful kids, is also a product manager. Yeah. So so stay there, and then the company was sold. I thought it's got a good time for me to go and try to find, a bit like maybe different industry, maybe just a bit more like more mature engineering as well. Because the goal of that business, of that gaming business, was to, fast and quick, and with speed, quality not always going to be the first thing on your mind, because you guys wanted to sell. Fair enough. And you learn from that too, right? How to focus and do it. From there, I moved to a company called Trax, which was, and I spoke about like in some conversations already. It's probably the company when I kind of felt the most humble, I guess, kind of go to the interview process, and it was hard questions, and you just get to see so many smart people around you, which was, to me, again, like, if you can be able to put yourself in that position, well, if that the whole room is smarter than you, great. Just shut up and listen.
What did Trax do?
So they did social media intelligence. It's a nice way to say tracking everyone. Yeah, so it's, kind of, but just like, for example, like, if somebody will put out multiple campaigns on Facebook and Twitter and other places and Reddit, and they want to know the segment of that campaign, just like, simplicity. So the system could track everything, all customers' responses on the page and everything from, by the millions, and give you the sentiment as a client. So very powerful. And also think it was like more than 10 years ago. Something that we might take for granted today, but then it was very new. And so lots of amounts of data. But put the tech aside for a minute. The leadership there, like, to me, was wow. And that went from just the people that kind of, led by example, and just the ownership. Also, the ability just to get the best out of everyone was amazing. And the engineering excellence there was, kind of, it's hard to find places like that. But especially like, it's not a FANG company. It was like very small, like no more than 20 engineers. And like it was in Israel and then in US later on. And just kind of, you get a feature, you go and you do a design, and then you present that design to your team at the head of engineering. You get feedback. You improve the design, and only then you start coding. Then you code, you get code review, and it's all like excellence, right? So, and your leadership will push you to your best. We're going to, buy you the time. They kind of protect you from the noise. Just focus on your business, right? You will go with the idea. You will go to them. Hey, I was thinking we can do this. Hey, I was thinking we can do this design. Yeah, no problem. Good idea. You try to sell it to the team, and they will listen. I worked there for 2 years. The company, eventually, we had to either go to US or just leave, because they want to move everything to US eventually. We played with an idea by then, but my wife and I, we already kind of was thinking, Australia was also kind of on our, that was already there, and we decided eventually to move to Australia. Yeah. And here we again just kind of moved here and found myself in a startup again very quickly, working again with my wife. We kind of joined a startup together, very early stages, and kind of helped them, and kind of worked there for 6 months, got the product from zero to actually go and deliver that to schools. It's pretty cool.
This was Life Skills Group.
Yeah, exactly. Life Skills Go. Yeah. Again, it was like more like a contract in a way, right? Just kind of get the feeling of Australian startup ecosystem. It was a part of the Moldy.
What was your initial thoughts on joining a Australian startup?
It was very different to me, like from the Israeli startup scenes. First of all, 6 p.m. the place was empty. Yeah. That was so strange to me.
The lifestyle.
It's not even. Yeah, and I was just some stayed a bit late, but I was like amazed. I'm working for a startup. I'm an employee. I'm a founding engineer, but like it's 8 p.m. and I'm the only one here. just eating like Thai food and coding, and all the founders went home. It doesn't mean they didn't do shit at home, probably, but still kind of the offices are for free. Like, where are you going? I used to actually kind of talk to with my mates, just kind of video call on Zoom or something. And then I just kind of show them, hey, look, guys, you can do startups differently. You don't have to work from 10 to 10. Yeah. So it was a bit different, but being kind of in like a startup accelerator, like it was us, like another 9 startups. It was pretty cool. Get to meet a few very interesting people. Some of them still friends with today. So yeah, it was pretty cool. And it was like a lot of just early stages, so there was a lot of focus on pitching and not necessarily building, from what I saw. Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, there was, and eventually there was like a demo day, and some of them raised, some of them did it, but I think some of them were sold. So overall, it was good experience. And then I went and joined a company called Elmo HR here in Australia. I wanted to go and try corporate a little bit company. Against my own, it's kind of, I never looked for that, but I was okay, shut the fuck up, go and try something that you haven't done before. How was that? Yeah, I found myself leading a team. Listen, for me, the experience was like, I didn't go there and expect it to become, to lead a team without actually being asked to lead a team. It just kind of happened, which was a bit weird to me. Like leadership, it's kind of, it needs to be defined, needs to be said. You're leading this team now, right? And those are the responsibilities, and that's the focus. And I think they were just growing at that stage. And some people were team leads, some people kind of, they kept changing the structure, kind of looking for the best way for them to manage that organization. And as a lot of large organization, I found it was quite a lot of politics involved, which I didn't enjoy. I wanted to stay more focused on people and building. Again, it's not about bad or good. It's just about some large organizations. It's just that's how they roll, and that's not for me. So I did what I do best. I went and joined a startup, joined Driver.
Yeah, and that was the bit that sort of attracted me to want to have further conversations, because you joined as the founding engineer and been there 5 years and grown the team up to sort of almost 20 engineers. Tell me about that journey.
Yeah, sure. I think with Driver, it was, I really wanted to join a startup, and founding engineer was something that I did before. So I wasn't scared of being by myself. I just kind of didn't need that support. I knew I could build from A to B and just, and work with the founders. I met Will and Scott. What I really liked about them as the co-founders, and it's really important to found an engineer. Put aside the idea. Idea is important, right? Timing to market is probably even more important. Especially the non-technical co-founders, right? They were straight to business. No, we're going to change the world for the better and all that bullshit, right? They told me about the business, about the problem they want to solve in a very one sentence, which is amazing, right? It's kind of, I've got confidence from them very quickly that they can execute on the business side if I can execute on the engineering side. And we had a few chats and just started. Yeah. And it was, very early stage startup. The chances of you surviving the first year are very low, almost, everything's pretty much against you. And so to me, I thought, okay, it's an opportunity. If the business will grow, it will give me an opportunity to build a culture that I want, right? Now, it's important because did I know the type of culture I want? Not really. Ask me today, yes. If I put myself back in my shoes, like 5 years ago, it's like I knew what I don't want, right? I knew that I don't want micromanagement, like, from anyone, right? It's kind of, I knew I want transparency with the business, that the business and engineering need to be very transparent with each other. I knew that I want to be able to adapt the engineering to the stage of the business and also unblock the business with engineering, right? So it's kind of, and I knew that the founders need to be okay that we're going to have to rebuild things from time to time, right, from scratch. And it's kind of, so just kind of very open, transparent culture, but not just fucking saying that, for real. Yeah. And yeah, and that's what we did. And it kind of evolved, just being by myself for 6 months, and I'm pretty good to tell, if I don't know something, I'll just say, yeah, I don't know how to do that. I'll either go learn how to do that, or I'll just go and get someone that can solve that problem. It's kind of, especially when the early stage of the business, time is, speed to market, put it in customer hands. Nothing more important than that. And I know some people will disagree with me. Like, it's kind of, I didn't care about unit tests for the first year. Good practices, I don't care. It just, again, like, I don't know if we're going to go past this, right? I do know if we're not going to move very, very quickly, we're not going to pass the first year. Or if we're going to go and raise money without achieving the critical things that we need to achieve, we're not going to be able to raise as well as we should, right? Because the market was there. The problem we were solving, find customers the best on option, automated, right? There's a need for that. And also kind of found a way to make money in fintech without being an asshole. Also was refreshing. Yeah. So all that together, right? It's kind of was really interesting. So start hiring. One engineer, another one, and then still very hands-on, obviously, right? The engineers kind of just working with me. And then after like a year, a bit less, we kind of moved between offices, and then COVID hit. Obviously, COVID hit 3 months after we started. I just been working with Will and Scott only for 3 months, right? So we don't know each other much, like too long, but it's gonna go to the office, Yeah, exactly. So COVID hit and we started working from home, but again, wasn't fine. We just stay focused on the business and just focusing on building. So yeah, so we kind of went through that. So with COVID, we started kind of, not say product market fit right away, but we started feeling that, it's going well. We get in volume. It gave us the opportunity to build the product and justify to hire more engineers. And once we had more than three, 4 engineers, I started to think more and more about me starting, reduce time on the keyboard and starting to think about that culture that I didn't know how to call it, started to build that, right? Kind of putting myself in that leadership position and how that's going to look like.
At what point of growing, at what point of growing the team did you really start to think about culture like as a priority?
Yeah, I think from the first engineer, right, kind of the join, it was already, okay, one-on-ones, right? It's kind of once a week. Yeah. And that's kind of, I went to my founders, hey, how about we start doing one-on-ones as well, right? Kind of once a fortnight. And then what do we talk about in one-on-ones, right? So it's kind of, and I had it before the companies, but it was always kind of a status update. That's not what it's for. It's to let the opportunity for my engineers to talk about whatever they want, really, and get the opportunity for me to get to know them, give them an opportunity to bitch about things, not necessarily, it's kind of, and you always have to lead by example though. Like you have to open up first. If you won't open up, they're not going to open up to you, and why would they, right?
Yeah, it's good. I think it's good, as you mentioned, to give them that safe space to talk, and then you have a transparent culture, which I'm sure every leader wants.
And I wanted to start that, from like engineer 1 or 2, like very early days, because it's the sooner you start building that mindset of transparency, and this is where we share, this is where we talk about things, the better, right? Because like you don't want it to be weird, and then when people join, they feel that, right? They kind of, hey, Robin, kind of the engineer, can go and tell Vico to fuck off. He has a better idea. And the only reason we can do that because we feel close, right? We know each other. At least they know me way better than I know them. Yeah. So that's how we start growing. Part of just kind of, those conversations, the important part is I started putting notes for myself, and I haven't shared them with anyone. Not with my founders, just like a psychologist, like it's mine. just fun. After every one-on-one, went to my laptop and just typed a few notes, kind of, what my thoughts, and most important one, action items, kind of what I need to do, right? And then before my next one-on-one, I just go and read that, quickly. And then people, you go to a conversation, then you can follow up and you develop trust. People trust you, they can talk to you, and you're not just doing it for, to tick a box. You actually give a shit. And I did, still do. And as we start growing, more and more engineers, I kept doing that and introducing. Once we start growing a bit more, I don't like flat structure. It's the reason is myself managing, leading, 12 engineers. I don't think that's the right way. Maybe in the future I will change my mind, but so far the way I look at this is that it's not the hierarchy of who reports to who, right? It's more I'm unblocking my team leads, they're unblocking the engineers, right? I think I mentioned that to you before. It's that's how I found the best way to look at this, right? That's kind of the mindset, different way. And then starting, kind of coaching my senior engineers that wanted to be leaders, right? And which is really important part is that thing in engineering. Someone is really, really good engineer, and they will tell them, hey, you're a really good engineer, you're going to go a team lead.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? And if you're lucky, they want to do it, right? But in most cases, they don't. And then they're suffering, right? So you took your best engineer out of tools. They're now not motivated. They don't like what they're doing. And the people that under them, right, they're going to suffer too because they're not getting the leader. That person usually will make all the mistakes that will all make them as first time, leaders. We're going to see a problem. We're going to go and fix it ourselves instead of stop and coach them to fix it, right? And then give them the tools to fix it. So and then everyone suffers. So I found the right people in my, kind of that want to be team lead and for the right reasons and want that responsibility. And I enjoy seeing my people grow, and they were exactly the same thing, right? They get a junior engineer and grow them, right? And get someone that's pretty good at front end, not so good at back end, and then after 6 months, guess what? They're not good at great. They're not great at both, right? So it's not going to happen by itself. So you need to invest time and effort. If you don't get people that enjoy that, it's not going to happen. And we're going to continue, so the team leads start doing one-on-ones with the engineers, and I did with my team leads. And so now I'm manager, leading managers.
How was that shift?
Very different dynamic, right? Because even here, you kind of stepping away, right? You need to give them the opportunity to solve in their team scope, solve those problems. Even if the solution, you need to go to that team lead and, hey mate, I see there's an issue here. Right? We need to go and work on that. We need to fix it. Performance, right? There's someone that we see struggling. We need to go and have a conversation. Now, the team lead very close to that person, not as close as the team lead to that person, right? So it's a bit not easier, but I have now a different more holistic view. Right? It's not even about comparing between the engineers, right? But it's easier for me to get out this, go back and forth a little bit, right? I can go to a different team and sit with them on the backlog refinement. I can go to that team and I can see, the difference. And sometimes the difference won't be great. And then I can go and work with the team lead, right? But then you need to give the team lead the opportunity to see the issues by himself, right? And just kind of guide them. How about this? How about that? How would you solve it? And it's exactly the same thing, right? If you as a leader, right, you're responsible for a team of 3-4 engineers, and you see a problem and you're going to go and always fix it yourself, they're not going to grow. You will be a bottleneck, right?
Do you think that's hard for most leaders to sit back and let them go through that process?
Exactly, but you have to, right? Again, otherwise, so you need to, instead of kind of go solve it yourself, you need to build the right process and coach, and they're going to make mistakes. They don't want to listen to you. No, I don't think it's a problem. Actually, I think it's the right way to go. And maybe they're right? It's kind of, what's the point of hiring smart people and not listening to them? I learn from my teammates probably more than what they learn from me, right? It's kind of, we just learn different things from each other. And, and it's kind of, how would I resolve it? And, those kind of, and they have product managers, I have head of product. It's kind of that tension between engineering and product is there. It should be there, right? It's kind of, it should be there. That's how you get good results. People need to communicate the right way. And all that, right? It's constant work on that culture. It's gonna feel like even when you get into a very good place, right? You can't let that go. You have to keep keep working on that, right? Each person that joins the team is going to change the dynamic of that team, but you still need to make sure that kind of we're all sticking to the same things we believe in, right? It's kind of, so if we believe in ownership, right, and kind of support each other, then it doesn't matter who joins the team, right? Can bring something new, but we all kind of need to continue with that. And each person that join us on any team, it's you can go to a stand-up and you hear different jokes. You'll hear different topics of conversation. It changes everything, right? Yeah. So it's with Java, it was kind of the first time I said, okay, I will actually let my hands off keyboard. It was a little bit scary, but it just, I've been coding for so many years and it was just kind of a big part of, kind of being part of building the product. And now suddenly is me building the product and working with the business is me building the team that builds the product, right?
Yeah.
And the biggest test for me was, do I still enjoy it as much as I built something and put it to production, right?
And what was the answer?
The answer was I enjoyed it as, X time engineers I had. So if I had 10 engineers, I enjoyed it 10x time, right? For me, for them to achieve, find a bug, knowing what, fix it, put it to production, then I was happy for them. Awesome, right? It's kind of building, they will work on something very hard and then we deliver that feature. And we all kind of thought, oh, this feature is gonna, fucking bring us $500,000 this year. When, it didn't work. You need to go back and just kind of continue to talk about yes, it happens. It's okay. Not every feature is going to be, a winner, and you need to keep them motivated. And I like that part too. It's kind of, you need to let someone go.
How would you typically, what have you learned throughout your career about keeping the team motivated?
First of all, I think there's two parts to it. I think one is a group and one is also individual, right? And it's very different. So those one-on-ones, it's an opportunity to do that. You kind of need to figure out what they actually want to do, right? And also to try to align that to the business. Like if someone, really wants to do, my dream is to write Go, I don't have an opportunity to write Go. I'm not going to be able to give that to that person. It's not going to stay with me for very long, which is fine. But I do want to be transparent about, right? It's kind of, if someone wants to be a team lead in the future, but I don't have a team yet, it doesn't mean we cannot start working on leadership together, right? It doesn't mean I cannot recommend doing this book and that book and just try, hey, how about you try on, small pieces of your team scope, right? Go to your team lead and say, hey, I want to be responsible, I want to own that feature from A to B, right? I want to try to lead that feature. I want to try to lead stand-up. I want to try to do this and this and this. Start reading about leadership. See if you enjoy it, right? If you're actually interested. So there's that on individual. And then as a group, I think for them to understand where the business is going, why they do what they're doing, it's one of the most important things. You're not just coding this because you have a ticket in Jira to do this, right? It's kind of, and then for them to be able to go and share, teach other engineers, doing workshops. That's not going to take much time. Hey, how about you present, Cursor AI? Use it for a week if you are interested. Go present it to the team. How about there's someone who's going to bring in a design pattern that you like and he kind of went and implement that in one of areas of the code. So keep them involved, get a buy-in from the team I think is really important. Also, again, the decision-making part is really important, right? You need to give them confidence that you're making decisions. Also, it's okay to make mistakes, right? It's also okay for them to make mistakes. And if they make a mistake, we're going to go and talk about how we solve it and how we, as a team together, work on solutions. So constantly working on problems, both individually, kind of grow and working on problems as a team. And I think what keeps people motivated. Again, we all want different things, right? But we also want to work with good people that we enjoy working with, right? They're spending together, like 9 to 5, 9 to 6, sometimes more. Nobody wants to work with an asshole, right?
That's a general rule.
But it's
everyone's different, right? And everyone needs to be managed.
Exactly, everyone different, And it's just figure out what makes each of them tick individually, and then how you kind of get that and work for them as a team, and then as multiple teams, right? It just takes different actions to make that happen. And again, it's a constant learning, right? Not everything I tried work, and you need to iterate. And again, that leading by example pretty much on any aspect, right? If it's the one-on-one, you're going to go and start by sharing about yourself, so they will open up. If you made a mistake, don't hide it. It's like, hey, that was me. Sorry about that. It will just encourage people to feel like it's a safe place, as it should be.
Yeah, for sure. And what would you say one of the biggest mistakes you've made as a leader that you can think of?
Yeah, probably gonna sound weird, not firing fast enough.
Yeah,
when I needed to. That's probably one of the biggest failures. When I was in a position where I thought someone they were good, but they're not good enough, so I'm gonna go and try, and then they will try. They will try their best, but it was still not good enough, right? And my lesson from that it's that besides just kind of they're improving, define where you want them to be, right? And it's not only about them; it's about the rest of the team as well, right? It's kind of more junior engineers need to look at their seniors as that's where they want to be, right? If the gap is too small, it's it's kind of need to admire the senior engineers almost, right? Kind of don't want to try to be them like as an example. And it's hard when someone has really good attitude, right? Someone that is likable, right?
Likable, yeah. I was gonna say.
Yeah, but and the team likes that person, right? And you don't work on kind of performance or try to be. It's one of those things you do on individual level, right? You don't just go and just do it publicly. That's where I think was my biggest lesson the last few years. Like it's kind of if you see someone is not where they need to be, right? And again, and where they need to be, that changes, right? You can find yourself that you raise the bar, right? And you need to raise the bar all the time, probably like with every hire, if anything, and everyone just go up. But some people maybe not capable, maybe don't want to, right? Yes, give them a chance. But if they're not going up, you're not doing them a favor by keeping them because they will be stuck. You now have quite a toxic situation in a team, even if again everyone's smiling and all good, but on the individual level, those people, those engineers, they look at that engineer and why I need to kind of why Vico is on my ass to be better at this. He's chasing me. How about that AWS certification? It's kind of, I can just do like that person and it's good enough. I think that was one of the biggest learning. Yeah.
I've heard that quite a bit with different leaders I've spoken to in the past about making, it's a fine line, isn't it? Between how long you keep someone for, when how fast you part ways, if that's the thing to do.
Yeah, it's not new. And what? Some things you will read, read an article, you will listen to a podcast, and oh yeah, that makes sense. I will do it next time. Some things you will listen, right? It's like our parents told us, hey, don't do this. This will happen. Just do it. Some things, unless you will experience it on yourself, you will go through that experience, you probably will never understand, right?
Yeah.
And you need that moment. Yeah. So that probably was mine. Yeah. Just kind of looking back, that I should have probably fired that person, kind of quite sooner. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a great point.
And it was, it didn't, even when I understood that, it wasn't easier, that conversation.
Especially if they're likable, as you say.
Yeah, exactly, right. Just a person on the other side. But at those moments, you need to think about the rest of the team. Like you have to, right? And the moment that person is gone, right, you immediately need to go and explain to everyone, why it happened, what was the reasons. And I told everyone, what happened. And I also told them explain to them that was my mistake, not doing it sooner.
Yeah, that's very true. And like as if you're looking back at when you were an engineer, is there any key bits of advice you'd give to someone who's in that position now, individual contributor? Like you mentioned before, not everybody wants to move into leadership in tech, and it isn't for everybody. But for a select few, they do want to do it. They'd be very good at it. They've got their eyes on it. What advice would you give to those people?
Well, try. Just go and try. Find a place when you get the opportunity to try, and find a place where you have others, the leaders, to learn from. That's probably going to be most important. If you don't have that, try to find a coach from outside. I did that too. With Drive, I had someone that I could, talk to like every 2 months, which I'm gonna call, and it was great, And it wasn't like just go and talk shit about, kind of work. It wasn't about that. It's just like, hey, that's what I'm doing, right? It's kind of, what do you think, right? It's like any other better way to do this, right? Or just kind of, hey, I have this in this situation. What would you do, right? How would you handle that? Just kind of get an opportunity to speak to someone that not necessarily have the context of the business, right? Because it's about people, it's not necessarily about the business. And because they outside of that business, they can give you very pure advice. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And we'll have like a view, we'll think about, a solution that, because you're so close to it, right? And everything is connected, you actually wouldn't think about it. So yeah, I think so I would highly recommend either find someone inside the organization that you can talk to, or outside the organization. That's also good enough. You know what? It's probably even better. So yeah, it's and from my experience, people that actually enjoy leadership, if you reach out to them, hey, I'm looking for a coach, to someone to have a conversation with, to understand about the role, a good leaders will want to do that. I did it a few times it's not about money, like for free. Happy to do it. And also, there's like not enough good leadership in engineering in Isaac Falls. So if I get the opportunity to get more good people into, as leaders into the industry, good, did my part. Yeah. So that's one. And be ready to let go of things. And that's probably the hardest thing, right? You need to be ready to be hands off tools. And if you're not organized, you need to be ready to become organized. Not a must, but will be helpful. I'm not the most organized person in the world. I'm okay, but it's the content is more important to me. What I'm gonna write about the person more important to me than how the page looks like, or how beautiful the folder structure is. As long as I can find everything I need quickly, that's good.
Even though you're from a design background, I would have thought you'd be a bit more.
Yeah, no, even that. Yeah, even that. There's aesthetics is important, obviously, but again, the content for me is like more important. Yeah. There are trade-offs. I have 15 engineers. Yeah, so to take care of, for me to have quick access to everything I need. It's my own mess. I know. Maybe someone else won't find anything, but I will find in my own mess. But when I do things for others, that's a different story. And also, just people leadership is not the only leadership in engineering, right? There's technical leadership, and it's as important, right? It's if anything, if we didn't have the technical leadership, right? Kind of roles like staff, principal, solution architect, I probably won't be able to do my job, right? Because that needs to be taken care of too. Depends on the size of the organization. Because like my focus should be on people, align that with the business, right? And like the technical leadership from solution architect, right? They kind of focus on the complexity of the system, right? And just purely on that. And I'm not blocked by one-on-ones and thinking about, if Jack has a, he has a kid coming and I know that he's not going to be on his best for the next month because he's not going to sleep very good. They just kind of focus on that problem. That focus is the key here. So yeah, it's so figure out, talk to leaders, try to just understand the day-to-day, try to imagine yourself in that role, and see if you enjoy it. But there's nothing like, try, and don't be afraid to fail. You will, for sure. Like I did, not everything I did was right. Of course not. And just be open and be humble, learn. Also, kind of now, every time I kind of went to hiring new engineers, I always wanted for them to be better engineers than I ever was, right? It's kind of, I want them in the interview to blow my mind, right? It's kind of the engineering skills, because that will be their focus, right? It's kind of, so you need, as an engineer, right? Kind of in your call, like you need to be able to go to that interview or to lead those group of people, and then just be aware that with time there will be better engineers than you.
Yeah, very true.
And they need to be, right, for your team to succeed. And you need to be it's not only you need to be okay with that, you actually need to you need to work your ass off for that to happen.
Would you give the same advice to team leads in your team who want to aspire to be, say, head of engineering, or would there be a little bit different?
I think I gave him the same advice. I think we talk about it all the time, kind of about leadership, and like now, kind of me and my teammates, we do every week, and kind of we talk about the team, how your one-on-ones go. I share with them, kind of things I okay to share. If I will, kind of, if I see like some kind of a pattern, something negative is going on with the team, kind of go and I can either share with the team lead by himself, if it's about him, if it's like about, a process we want to improve, involve their own people. So we mostly talk about people, and they know why, right? Like it's not a secret. Like it's kind of so yeah, definitely. And they know my journey. They know where I'm coming from and what I do, what I, like what stands behind my decisions, right? So I'm very decisive. Like I will go make a decision, and if it was a mistake, I will, oops, let's correct it. It was wrong. Let's try something else. But it's better to make a decision. It's better to make a wrong decision than not to make any decision at all.
Take some action.
Exactly. And exactly what, I wanted for them to do. And because leadership is such an individual, right? It's almost like on one side you adapt yourself, to your audience, like, especially like on one-on-ones, it's like a different person, it's like an actor, right? And you have to, because you need them to open up. And then when you go and you talk to all of them at the same time, right? You kind of back to being yourself. Yeah. So it's like they have their own ways of doing things, right? It's kind of, I'm not looking, hey, you should do this and this exactly like I do, right? I show them how, like, I get what I need from one-on-one, right? It's kind of, they don't have to go and open up as much. Like it's, some people are not comfortable with that. Like they don't have to, right? But eventually the idea, you want your team to be open with you. So you will be able to be proactive about any issues. You can make sure the scope of delivery, it's deliverable. And if not, for any reasons, right, you need to communicate with your product manager and the business and start thinking about solution as a team lead, right? So we're not doing this all for the fun. It's not like a child department that it's all about people. Like people are very important, but we also have, we have built. And so they can have their own way to achieve that. So I think what for me is need to define for them, right? You go and have that conversation, right? If you want to do it every week, you want to do it every fortnight, that's your choice, right? As a team lead, I can recommend what works for me. Twice a week, it's going to be weird. Like it's kind of, because you work together every day, probably not going to get enough. I can do once a month, right? Kind of with them because they have once a fortnight with you. So yeah, it's, but eventually at the end of the conversation, right? You need to be very comfortable to tell me, right? Or tell yourself, even more important, is that engineer, is he growing or she? Are they growing? Are they happy? Is there any risk of them moving on? Are they performing as expected? Are you guys together working towards the goal? How they operating within the team? Is there anything in there that you see in their personal life that you can interrupt with their professional life, or vice versa, right? You see them working like crazy, right? Kind of for no reason really, right? It's kind of just try to prevent burnout. So if you can achieve all that by just playing a video game together, playing Call of Duty while you do one-on-one, cool, do that. I don't care. The way I do them, I try to do them if I can in person, and we're just going for a walk.
That's a good idea, yeah.
Right? Because then you're outside of the office, it's a different environment, it's easy for people to open up. And just kind of find your way to do this. Yeah.
I like that. The walking one-on-one. I like that. And then like a huge point that leaders are always, and aspiring leaders are always thinking about, is growing teams. It's not easy to grow teams, and it's not easy to always retain people. It's there is a skill to that. When you're interviewing, when you're looking to bring on engineers into the team, what are you typically looking for? What's your strategy there?
So there are a few things there. Growing the team is, again, like as I mentioned before, every time you hire, you need to try and find someone that is at least as your best person in that team, if not better. Brings new skills and kind of fresher. I like to keep my team involved in the interview process. It's kind of team lead and product managers, like sometimes we do they're part of the reviewing the home assignment, if they're part of the technical interview. It's, you want to let that person to meet with people they're going to be working with, both for the person who's going to join the team. That interaction, it's kind of going to tell you a lot from the side if they actually be cool to work together, spend time together. So so you let your team, you get your team buy-in, right? It's kind of about that person, and that they be part of the decision. They have to be, right? It's kind of, there were times that I liked someone and the engineers, the interview, they didn't, and I didn't hire that person. It's, it's kind of, so what if I like that person, right? I try to sell what I like them, but I couldn't convince them. I disagree. I didn't see what you saw, right? I actually think it's going to be, hard for that person to be part of the team. I think we're going to struggle this here, here, and here. This is why I think that. So, like, if I won't be able to convince that team lead or that we need to hire that person, I'm first going to hold their confidence, right? Kind of in their decision-making process. And if I'm able to convince them, great. But I also need to be accept if they were right? It's kind of, if they're not good, I will need to go and, just say, yes, I was wrong, and need to, kind of release that person. I have to get the team approval, right? It's kind of just to make sure, because also they're the ones going to be working with that person, right?
Yeah, true.
It's not only, so yeah. And by the way, vice versa, right? It's kind of, if they like someone and I don't, right? I will go, or I can say, hey, listen, the things that's what I'm concerned about. If you're still going to want to go, we can. I'm not going to block you. Right. Sometimes if I see something horrible, I might, but I'm not going to block you, but I want us to focus on those areas, right? Want to be sure, like, kind of meet probation after 3 months or whatever, or like 2 months. We know that, that's not an issue. And we need to work on that together. So again, it all comes back to communication, just working together.
Yeah.
And do the hiring, yourself. It doesn't matter if you use recruiter or not. Obviously I'm speaking with you, so yeah, in different podcasts. Yeah. It doesn't really matter. When we did use recruiter as a driver at the beginning, especially when that market was nuts, when engineers got an offer after one phone call. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's just beat through the whole cycle of hiring. Right, just kind of, if it means you're gonna interview 7 people that day, do it. I did it. It's way more difficult than coding or anything else, but respect your team by investing that time into hiring, right? It's kind of, and let them know
job.
And let them know that that's your primary job. There were like things that I wanted to do for the team, and I was, okay, I'm not gonna get to this, right? Can someone else do it? Because I need to find you another engineer, right? And for the next 2 weeks, all I'm going to do is talk to people, right? Because I need to find you the best person I possibly can.
Yeah. I think
it's simple as that.
Momentum as well, isn't it? So like if you're focusing on that and you're putting time into it and you're doing it back to back, you're doing the reps, you got a faster feedback loop, you're going to be able to run comparisons faster, and you're probably going to be able to make a decision faster than if you say space it out, did 1 a week. Forgot about that person because you're doing.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's a full-time job, right? Well, that's what you guys get paid, right? It's kind of, it's not only just the interview, just to find the right people. It's kind of, you put an application on LinkedIn, you get 100 candidates, and 10 of them actually live in the same country as you are. It's yeah. There's, and then you need to be able to go look at that CV. Look at that LinkedIn page, and you need to read through the bullshit. That's just the reality. And you need to try to find out if that person, right, just from looking at the profile, right, is going to be a good fit for the team. So to me, it was always kind of try to imagine that person from step 1, if they're going to be, try to imagine them in the team, right? And then having that conversation, the first conversation, right? And to me, like, everything is a little test, right? It's kind of, I give them a call, how they respond to me, how they message me on LinkedIn, how they answer me on LinkedIn, right? It's kind of how we chatting, like during the conversation, right? If they check their phone all the time, right? If they're not there, no way, right? It's kind of like, it's
red flags.
Every little thing, right? It's a kind of, and it doesn't have to be a red flag, right? It just kind of like, you on an interview with someone, right? Kind of head of engineering from a company or with the team lead. They taking time from their team to come and speak to you, to join. Respect that. Be there, right? It's the opportunity for you to listen, right? If it's a good interviewer, they're going to try and sell their company. They're going to try to look for an alignment, right? So it's kind of, so I'm interviewing you. I want you to interview me as well, like ask me questions. So yeah, so just try to imagine them, be part of the team. And also don't be disappointed, if you do really like someone, suddenly, they don't want to continue, right? It's not personal. Sometimes, as companies interviewing multiple people interviewing with multiple companies. If it's, going to happen, it's going to happen. And so, yeah, speed is important, I think. One of the most important things. A driver, sometimes I hire people in a week, do the whole process. Monday, first conversation, home assignment. They came into the office, we did a technical interview, blah, blah, blah. They did another chat, same day or the day after, with the co-founder, head of product, for end of the day.
Your recruiter's dream.
Yeah. When we use recruiters, like, it was kind of, I felt like, oh, I just paid them like $30,000 for an email. Yeah, but on the other side, right, it's kind of, they gave me those, hey, Victor, those are the 5 people, right? You should speak with, right?
Yeah, it's a time
For me
thing.
to get to those 5 people, right? It's a job, right? So yeah, it's all depends how much time you have. But regardless, to me, again, that's my opinion. Regardless how you get that list, how you get that person to have a conversation with you, just as a leader, have as many conversations as you need to. And yeah, and if it takes 45 minutes, an hour, so what?
Yeah.
If you're really good at hiring, really good, your process is good, it's probably like about like 70% chance you hired well, maybe.
Yeah.
Right? If you're really good. So if you want to go, so kind of go from 60 to 70, and all it takes to spend another 20 minutes on the call, I think it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you get out what you put in.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
You mentioned before about like a bit of advice for engineers coming up is that gaming industry, or even potentially gambling, that high traffic stuff. That's great advice. Like lots of high traffic, complex stuff to get stuck into. Would you? Obviously, that was a little bit back then. Would you still give that same advice now, or is there any industry sectors that you'd go, especially with what everything that's emerging at the moment and all the buzzwords flying around? Is there any advice that you'd give in terms of industries now to get stuck into?
I think whatever do you have the most complexity, of kind of like don't get stuck on the boring stuff, especially on the engineering, right? It's kind of go and try to get into companies when it's hard to get in. And it's not necessarily like, kind of the lead code or just larger systems. Again, I enjoy smaller organizations, startups, because get to have, I get to be closer to the action. There's also a lot of good practices still on in a large organization. You need to be aware that you can work on something for 2 years and it will never see the light of, it's not going to go to production. If you're okay with that, that's okay. And you can also get a lot of complexity for production from coding. What I'm talking about is complexity and continuity of, kind of that life cycle of building something. Users use it, and then it will come back to you, right? Kind of with issues, or you're going to build more on top of that feature, right? It's kind of being part of that process of build, product, customer, back to, back and forth, just living through a life cycle of a usage of your product for a long time, and kind of seeing that complexity increase, and then go back to it and making something complex simple, right? You can learn a lot from that. Because engineers, we tend to over-engineer.
Yeah, that's always looking for problems to solve.
Yeah, not just I can do this, right? It's kind of because it's fun, and not necessarily it's going to benefit the business. Also, as a leader, right? You need to keep your engineers in check, right? It's kind of around that, but keep them motivated about technology. So that balance is also important. For me, it was gaming then, right? It's kind of that was whatever is, find something that you think is complex, you're going to enjoy that industry, right? It's kind of, if it's AI, whatever it is, right? If it's like medtech, education, like you want to go and, you want to go and work for banks, kind of, you think like that, kind of complexity around, the back end of, transactions and no, kind of no failure system. Or, choose something that you think will really, kind of get your brain boiling. It's kind of not just on one time, just kind of you're comfortable, but then, it's kind of like another thing for you to learn. You're comfortable, you're learning, then another thing, right? It's kind of makes you resilient. But yeah, I know it's very inviting to go and stay comfortable, right? It's a good salary, there's the mortgage, it's nice, right? It's kind of, I'm like everybody else on the train, 5:30. It's cool. You watch a YouTube, I can, it's kind of nothing wrong with that. But I would say, it's kind of one of the things that I like looking back, that I tried gaming, I tried edutech, I tried fintech, and from each industry I learned so much, and each industry had different complexity. Not from the only engineering, but from people, right? It's kind of, when you work in a specific industry, you get to people that work in that industry, right? Like before I kind of built something for teachers, didn't speak with the teacher after my high school. Why would I? And suddenly you work for them. That's a very different story, right? It's kind of, I didn't know shit about car loans before I started working as a driver. Didn't want to know, but kind of, hey, we can automate this to let people choose, right? And it's kind of, then you work with lenders, and then suddenly you kind of that in the middle right? And can you build an automation that both helps people to find the best loan as fast as possible, and then you get to meet kind of people that kind of walk in that in credit, and you understand what they actually look. And then you see lenders, they don't look at you as a person, they look at you as an asset, there's a risk, right? It's kind of, and it teaches you a lot about that complexity between people and the product they interact with. So yeah.
No, that's really great insight. We talked about growing teams and stuff like that. I mean, one of the things that you always see popping up on LinkedIn debates is about people who have been at one company and progressed and shown progression, or people who have hopped about to different companies, which you sort of touched on then with learning new skills and sectors. What's your view on that when you get a couple of CVs?
People leave bad managers. If someone is left the company after 6 months, just ask why. Why did you leave, right? It's kind of just, you can tell a story. Hey, it's kind of, look at your CV. I saw you worked there for 6 months. It's kind of, I also worked in the company for 6 months. The reason I left was just, didn't align with the leadership style. Again, lead by sharing something and see if they will open up a little bit just to share why. I think things change, some people get lucky, they find the place. I stayed at Agile 5 years. I got lucky. I met Will and Scott, and we worked really well together. So I got to stay for 5 years. Before that, I worked here for 6 months, here for a year. I was looking to find a place that I can apply my skills, find a place where my values, how I like to work, also can align with what the company believes in. It's better to hop between jobs than stick around in a place that you don't like.
Agreed.
How is that better? Short and it's not worth it. It's like our parents' generation, it's probably mine more than yours, maybe. I don't know. We're probably not that different. Yeah. So it's like I'm 42. Like my dad worked in one factory for almost 20 years.
That was the way, right?
He fucking hated it.
Is it on the hope of a pension? Retirement?
Oh, just kind of new country. Like it took a while to get, so just kind of from week to week and years and months, and it's kind of. Then he, after 15 years, he went to study again, and just it took time, got the certifications, and then just he went, and now he loves what he's doing. And it's kind of just kind of every week he was waiting for the weekend to go and do other stuff. So I think watching my dad not enjoying the place he was working at, just kind of, no, I'm not doing this. Right. It's kind of, he's an amazing person. And I feel bad that a lot of those 20 years, almost he didn't enjoy those part of that, of the day. Yeah. So it's kind of luckily for us, it was never, we never felt that at home as kids and such, but I was good at hiding it. But yeah, it's, I think if someone will ask me, why did you hop? And I will explain, I didn't align with the company. So I left. If they didn't like that, kind of, it doesn't trust, it kind of, I think it's a problem because, it's kind of, you need to stick to one job or whatever. So I will just say, oh, thank you for telling me this, giving me this answer. So I probably won't be joining you as well. So it's, I feel like stick to the truth as much as you can. I understand we have responsibilities and we need to pay the bills. Yeah, but if you have that option, just keep looking for the place you actually enjoy. And if you can't work for anyone, maybe it's an opportunity to offer something on your own. Maybe it's you, maybe it's not them, but not all of us are capable, work for someone. Nothing wrong with that.
That's very true. Very true. And then, when you get to a point that you are now, so how many engineers are you responsible for at the moment?
Yeah, 15. Yeah, and growing. Yeah.
15, yeah. So, that's a decent sized team. As a leader now with an established team that size, what keeps you up at night now?
How do I scale, kind of my approach, I guess, which is very individual, right? It's kind of, if I need to lead a team of 100 engineers, right? How do I stay close? How I understand, individually, right? It's like in order to lead a group of 50 engineers, right? I had to let go of a lot of coding, which I love to do. If I need to go and grow to 100 engineers, that probably means I need to let go of being close to people, right? And being close to the product. And it's a decision I will probably have to make with time, right? If that's what I want. Don't know yet. Yeah, it's we'll see.
It's the start of your journey for that.
Yeah, I guess so. It's it's kind of you growing, and again, there's just jumps it's kind of you manage small team, and then 2 teams 5, 6 engineers, and then 10, and then 15, and then Now, is the big difference between 15 and 20? No, between 20 and 50, yes, right? It's kind of, so you need to let go way more, you need to trust more. So it's kind of, you need to stick closer to your leaders and continue to coach, and you need to give them the confidence and the tools, right? It's kind of, and make sure your team leads and engineer managers. So whatever that pyramid, how it looks like, right? Whatever the title, whatever name is, people that are responsible for people are your best people, for people management, for people leadership, right? Are the best leaders, right? That actually give a shit. It's not necessarily best engineers, kind of just best at being people leaders.
And you're still speaking with mentors and people in leadership who are doing things at scale.
We stopped for a little bit. He went through kind of a few changes, but also he had to focus on himself. I tried to kind of speak with some others, and I had to focus more like on drive and just kind of family. I am kind of on the lookout. If you know someone, will be good.
Yeah. I'll speaking to people every day in senior leadership, so I'll try and connect some dots. Yeah. Well, yeah, look, it's been great talking to you, Viktor, again.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate your time. You've dropped some bombs of wisdom that I'm sure some young future leaders can take away.
Yeah, hope so. Yeah, hope it was helpful. Otherwise, just kind of spend an hour of your time. Hopefully, just went on running or did something useful.
I enjoyed the conversation, as always. But, mate, appreciate your time. Yeah, chat again soon. Thanks, Viktor.
Thank you very much. Thank you.